Rolex has always meant luxury, heritage, and exclusivity. But beneath the polished showrooms and long waiting lists, a darker trade has exploded. In 2025, the black market trade of counterfeit and gray market Rolex watches in China isn't just growing, it's booming. Whispers on the underground put the volume at tens of thousands of fake Daytonas, Submariners, and Datejusts flooding major Chinese cities each month. Some dealers claim that up to 30 to 50% of Rolex watches sold in certain markets are counterfeit or diverted via unofficial channels. That means hundreds of thousands of pieces, not from official supply chains, slipping into private hands. Counterfeit watches made in a backroom workshop sell for as low as $500 to $1,200, while a good condition gray market piece might go for $6,000 to $7,500. Far below official retail, but high enough to draw buyers chasing status on a budget. That price gap fuels a massive shadow industry. Official supply no longer controls who wears the crown. The real trade happens in dark alleys, hidden forums, and underground deals. It is no longer about heritage. It is about deception and profit. And once you see how deep the rings go, you'll never view that Rolex on someone's wrist the same way again. Why Rolex? Roots of the problem. Rolex stood out in China as a badge of success. As incomes rose and people found new ways to show they made it, a Rolex on the wrist quickly became a kind of shorthand for status. Many young professionals and dream-chasing shoppers looked at a Rolex not only as a watch, but as a ticket into a higher social class. They believed wearing one could lift their image almost overnight. The brand name, the design, and the prestige all added up into something bigger than just a timepiece. The demand for Rolex in China grew fast as more people chased that image. Because the demand ballooned so quickly, a gap opened between what people wanted and what they could realistically afford or obtain. Genuine Rolex pieces often carried long wait lists, especially in major cities, and carried high price tags. Many buyers didn't have the patience or the money for that wait. That gap offered a welcome door for counterfeiters. Some consumers said they would rather go for a cheaper look-alike than wait months or pay full retail for a real one. That push to get the Rolex feel without the high price created the conditions for a booming black market. Seeing the money to be made, counterfeit producers began to step in. In certain provinces, such as Guangdong and Fujian, specialized workshops arose. These places did more than slap a fake logo on a cheap watch. They built machinery and sourced materials to replicate watch parts with growing precision. Over time, replicas left behind the old reputation as poorly made knockoffs. Instead, some of these copies made their way into markets as super clones, using higher-grade metal and more accurate movement parts. These better materials and better production methods brought some copies very close to the real thing. Because of such sophistication, a fake could now pass a quick glance. The weight could feel right. The face, the case, and even the outer appearance might fool someone without a trained eye. Some buyers who just cared about how the watch looked, not whether it truly ran like a Swiss original, felt these were good enough. And counterfeiters counted on exactly that. Many buyers did not check under the hood. With each sale, the black market watch gained some legitimacy in the eyes of others. That cycle pushed more buyers into the gray or black market and encouraged counterfeiters to keep upping their game. At the same time, digital sales and parallel distribution channels helped the trade spread fast. Sellers turned to online marketplaces, social media platforms, and pseudo-private chat groups to promote their goods. Some of these channels hid behind coded language or private links to avoid detection. From those online offers, buyers could get instructions on how to meet sellers or even ship watches abroad. Pair that with China's established manufacturing and export networks, and the fake watch trade found a route not just inside China, but outward to other regions. That web of production and distribution lets counterfeiters scale up quickly. Another part of the problem came from shifting consumer attitudes. Many buyers, especially younger ones, viewed a watch less as a tool and more as a style or statement. For them, owning a Rolex mattered more than owning the Rolex. All they cared about was how it looked on their wrist. Social media, peers, and cultural pressure pushed them to chase symbols. Because they valued status and appearance, paying full retail did not always matter. A convincing fake could satisfy the urge, and often at a fraction of the cost. That mindset kept demand alive and kept counterfeiters busy. As the fake watch business grew, it also became more organized. Instead of small street stalls, some counterfeiting operations involved factories, assembly lines, packing stations, and shipping networks. In one major case, authorities found a network in Guangzhou that handled production, assembly, packaging, and distribution of counterfeit watches bearing the Rolex trademark without permission. People involved ranged from those handling production, to those shipping finished products, to those managing warehouses. Over several years, the volume and value of fake watches produced reached hundreds of millions of RMB. Even legal and regulatory pressure did not shut down the trade completely. Because the incentive was so high, millions of dollars worth of potential profit, many makers kept working in secret workshops or moved production locations. Some shifted operations to smaller, harder-to-track factories. Others dispersed production over multiple workshops to avoid detection. As long as there was demand, and as long as profit margins stayed huge, many found it worth the risk. In the eyes of counterfeiters, Rolex offered the best target. Its brand name was known globally. Its demand was high in China. Its resale value was strong. Legit Rolexes could hold or even increase value over time. That gave fakes an extra edge. They could be sold not just as cheap substitutes, but as investment-style watches to buyers who hoped to flip them later. The combination of recognized brand value, social prestige, and high demand created a strong lure for black market actors. That foundation laid the ground for what many now call a spiral. Scale and sophistication, how counterfeit operations work. The black market for fake Rolex watches has grown to massive scale in China, and the operations behind it have become shockingly sophisticated. What used to be simple copies sold in street stalls has turned into an organized business, with factories, assembly lines, warehouses, and distribution networks that stretch far beyond local markets. This is no longer a small-time hustle. It's a big, layered machine built to mass-produce watches that imitate originals closely and then push them into a global flow of buyers. In one landmark case, authorities uncovered a large counterfeiting ring operating from 2015 to 2021. Based in Guangzhou, the ring involved many people who played different roles, from sourcing parts, to assembly, to packaging, and sales. Investigators found that the network used unbranded watch movements, then disassembled them to engrave counterfeit logos. Components were built in workshops, assembled, packed like real Rolex watches, and shipped out through agents. Their operation ran over 6 years. This case shows how deep and structured some counterfeit operations have become. The people behind it did not just slap a fake logo on a cheap watch, they made it pass as a real luxury watch. Industry estimates show that the fake watch market remains extremely resilient. Some analyses claim that the production of replica Rolex watches continues to expand, especially in Chinese provinces like Guangdong and Fujian, where specialized workshops replicate high-grade steel, watch movements, and even packaging that resembles the real thing. According to one source tracking the fake Rolex market, the use of better materials, for example 904L stainless steel, a premium steel grade also used by genuine Rolex, started becoming common in these replicas. Some copies also use advanced finishing methods to improve water resistance or durability, bringing them even closer to legitimate watches in feel and presentation. Because of these improvements, some of the replicas from China now mimic the real watch so well that even trained dealers may struggle to tell them apart without opening the watch or inspecting details under magnification. For global context, one recent investigative report suggested that tens of millions of counterfeit luxury watches are produced annually, many coming out of southern China and related export hubs. These don't just circulate internally. A significant share are shipped out globally, to markets in Asia, Europe, Middle East, and beyond. Because the operations are so vast and refined, traditional signs of a fake have become harder to trust. The difference can be uncertain unless someone does a deep inspection. Experts say that many fakes now can fool pre-owned dealers or second-hand buyers unless movement and build are closely checked. At the same time, distribution methods adapted. Instead of only selling on black market streets, counterfeiters hooked into online platforms, private chats, and sometimes overseas shipment routes. Some shipments hide fake watches among other consumer goods to avoid suspicion. For instance, in 2025, authorities at a border control point seized a container from China carrying 450 counterfeit Rolex watches. The container was declared as carrying general goods, but inspection revealed the fake watches along with many other undeclared items. This makes the trade harder to track, especially when shipments cross borders and go through customs routes that may not inspect each item carefully. Because the profit potential remains high, many counterfeit enterprises continue to risk exposure. For them, the chance to sell hundreds or thousands of Rolex-branded watches at much lower cost than genuine ones can yield big returns. That economic incentive pushes the counterfeit sector to keep evolving, upgrading materials, refining production, and building networks for shipping and sale. Moreover, the trade has grown beyond small-time players. The 2023 court case in China convicted 15 people involved in large-scale manufacturing and distribution of fake Rolex and other brand watches. Enforcement has picked up too, with major raids and seizures by customs and market supervision authorities. In one 2023 to 2024 crackdown, officials discovered a workshop producing thousands of counterfeit watches, dials, straps, and other watch parts branded with Rolex and other popular designer names. They seized large quantities of semi-finished and finished goods on the spot. Yet, each crackdown seems to hit one node, while the broader network continues elsewhere. For each seized batch, many more may slip through. Because counterfeit operations can be moved, reinstalled, or divided into smaller workshops, shutting one down doesn't stop the rest. This fragmentation makes enforcement a game of whack-a-mole. Because the supply chain and distribution have become global, the copies aren't just circulating inside China. Fake Rolex watches made in China are exported worldwide. The global spread increases the profits and spreads the risk, making the trade more resilient to local crackdowns. The fight against fake. The fight against fake Rolex watches in China and beyond has not stayed silent. In recent years, government agencies, customs departments, and courts have stepped up efforts to crack down hard. They have tracked down producers, seized shipments, and punished offenders, trying to push back on the flood of counterfeits. But even with how enforcement plays out, the problem still fights back. As long as being seen with a luxury watch stayed attractive, and as long as buyers were willing to pay for the look rather than authenticity, the black market found fertile ground to grow. In 2023, a big court case became a warning signal. The Zhenjiang Economic Development Zone People's Court sentenced 15 people to prison or fines for running a large-scale counterfeit Rolex operation. The case involved manufacturing, assembly, packaging, and sale of counterfeit watches. Investigators found that from July 2015 to April 2021, the group had produced fake Rolexes and other brand watches, using unbranded movements, counterfeit parts, and secret workshops. The amount involved was huge, over 300 million Chinese yuan in counterfeited goods. The complexity of the case revealed a well-organized system rather than random underground deals. Some of the offenders got full prison terms, up to 6 years and 6 months, and others got fines or suspended sentences. The ruling showed that when authorities catch entire production chains and bring them to court, they can impose serious penalties. Fake watch manufacturing is not treated as a simple civil issue, but as a criminal offense with real consequences under Chinese law. But that is not the only front where enforcement happens. The border and customs authorities are fighting another kind of fight, trying to catch smuggling and illegal shipments. In June 2025, customs officers at the Tra Lin International Border Gate on the China-Vietnam border seized a container declared as general consumer goods. The shipment supposedly carried 24 tons of consumer goods, but inside, tucked away, were watches bearing the Rolex brand, with no paperwork, no proof of legality, no trace to legitimate supply. The importer failed to present documents proving origin or authenticity. Authorities then took samples, had the rightful trademark owner examine them, and confirmed the watches were counterfeit. If the watches were real, the declared value would have been massive. Customs estimated the shipment's genuine value at around $1.7 million US. This seizure shows that even in 2025, the flow of counterfeit Rolex watches remains active. However, enforcement still catches some of the goods before they flood markets. Beyond that, enforcement in China itself continues on multiple levels. In 2024 and 2025, domestic market regulation bureaus and public security organs have cracked down on workshops, storage sites, and retail points suspected of dealing in counterfeit goods. They seized thousands of items and launched formal legal procedures. That shows enforcement isn't only at borders or high courts. Agencies are also trying to cut the problem at its roots by shutting down factories and storage sites. In some cases, they dismantle networks before goods go out. Still, the problem is complex. Even though some large operations are broken up, other smaller ones, easier to hide, may continue elsewhere. Enforcement can disrupt a ring or catch a shipment, but it does not guarantee the entire counterfeit trade stops. Many criminals adapt by moving workshops, splitting tasks among different places, or using more secretive shipment routes. Because profits remain high, counterfeiters find it worth the risk. International enforcement also plays a role. Outside China and Asia, customs authorities sometimes seize counterfeit watches en route to other countries. For example, in 2025, a major customs agency in the United States intercepted a shipment of 243 counterfeit designer watches, including Rolex, arriving from China with a combined suggested retail value over $6 million if genuine. This shows that the counterfeit watch trade is global, and enforcement efforts must cross borders too. In many ways, the enforcement effort is a constant push and pull. On one side are courts, customs, and regulatory bodies trying to uproot manufacturing, stop smuggling, punish offenders, and protect brand owners. On the other side are cunning networks that shift tactics, hide parts, split operations, and switch routes. That dynamic keeps the counterfeit trade alive, but it also shows that enforcement remains vital. Without it, the trade might grow even larger, hurt more consumers, and undercut legitimate markets. Even with these crackdowns, seizures, and court cases, the volume of counterfeits remains large. The incentives are huge. Counterfeiters can produce watches cheaply, ship them in bulk, and sell them at prices far below genuine luxury watches, often high enough to make big profits. As long as demand exists, some buyers, knowingly or not, will buy. That keeps the pressure on customs and law enforcement to stay alert. The fight is far from over, because every watch seized, every factory closed, and every arrest counts as a strike against a global problem. The impact on real market. Fake watches hitting the market in large numbers have shaken the ground for real, authentic luxury watches. When many of them look almost the same as the real thing, buyers begin to doubt if any watch they see, even expensive ones, is real. That doubt spreads slowly but deeply. It eats away at trust people once had in luxury watches. Many buyers start to hesitate before paying top prices for a watch, even a genuine one. They worry that other watches might look the same but be fake. That worry makes them pull back or search for big discounts. In the second-hand or pre-owned watch market, once a strong channel for real watches, things are getting rough. Sellers find it harder to prove a watch is genuine. Because super fakes have grown much harder to spot, even experts sometimes struggle without opening the watch and checking its movement. Many buyers no longer trust simple photos or surface checks. They want deep authentication, or they walk away. That slows down resale and trading. As buyers grow shy, resale prices for genuine luxury watches have started to drop. What once sold at or above original price now sells lower, especially for second-hand pieces. For some models, people used to pay a premium above retail when demand was high. People could pay a lot for such a watch, knowing it would hold value or even rise in worth after years. But when high-quality fakes flood the market, that promise weakens. Now, because of counterfeit competition and buyer caution, sellers must reduce asking prices or wait much longer for a sale. This drop in resale value hurts more than just occasional buyers. For many owners and collectors, a luxury watch was an investment, something to hold, maybe pass down, possibly resell later. If the resale value becomes shaky, that idea crumbles. Buyers start to see watches less as assets, more as risky purchases. Some people stop viewing them as status investments. They may decide it's not worth it to pay high prices when the resale value may sink. For dealers, especially independent pre-owned dealers, the flood of fakes becomes a big problem. They now must spend more time and money on authentication. They may need special tools or send watches to experts to check movement, materials, serials, engravings, not just rely on surface appearance. That extra cost eats into profits. If a fake slips through unknowingly, the dealer may lose a lot as the buyer may demand a refund, leave a bad review, or post warnings online. That risk makes some dealers pull back from trading luxury watches altogether. The trust problem affects not only buyers and dealers, but also the broader brand reputation. When many fake watches circulate, the image of luxury and exclusivity gets watered down. A luxury watch brand is built on quality, history, and prestige. But if buyers worry that Rolex or another big name might just be a convincing knockoff, the brand loses part of its shine. As reputation fades, even genuine buyers may shift away, either to other brands or to different status symbols entirely. Moreover, the presence of fakes distorts the balance between supply and demand. Before, demand often outstripped supply, so real watches could fetch high prices. Now, because cheap lookalikes promise the look at far lower cost, some buyers choose fakes instead. That lowers demand for real watches. Real watchmakers and authorized dealers feel that shift. Also, this shift affects new sales. People who might once have saved up to buy a genuine watch now think twice. Over time, this reduces the number of new buyers entering the market. That hurts long-term demand and reduces the pool of customers for real watches. Another danger, the second-hand market loses its vibrancy. Before, pre-owned watches offered a way for buyers to access luxury at lower cost and for sellers to make returns. But with trust eroded, fewer people buy and sell. Some sellers close shops after losing customers. That shrinks the entire ecosystem. Because of these pressures, dealers and buyers are trying to adapt. Some dealers now rely only on strict authentication processes before buying or selling. But these extra steps add cost, slow down deals, and still may not fully restore consumer confidence, especially among casual buyers. The damage also spills beyond just watches. As buyers lose confidence in luxury timepieces, they may start doubting other second-hand luxury goods, bags, leather goods, jewelry. Counterfeit flooding can ripple into entire luxury resale markets, hurting many legitimate sellers and reducing overall trust in luxury resale. In some countries, including China, experts estimate that between 15% and 20% of watches sold can be counterfeit. For many honest buyers, that level of risk is enough to decide not to buy at all. And when buyers stay away, values drop further. In short, the surge of high-quality fake watches doesn't just threaten counterfeiters. It undermines the whole structure that keeps genuine luxury watches valuable. It drains trust, pushes down resale values, hurts resale and pre-owned dealers, damages brand reputation, scares off new buyers, and weakens the luxury resale ecosystem as a whole. Unless the industry, regulators, and buyers work hard to weed out fakes and restore confidence, the long-term value and meaning of owning a real luxury watch may decline, and the trust may never fully come back. The vicious cycle. Over time, the counterfeit watch business, especially fake versions of luxury watches like Rolex, became more than a small crime. It turned into a full-blown global network. The size, complexity, and adaptability of that network make it hard to stop once and for all. Even as authorities crack down sometimes, the system reboots somewhere else. That resilience helps explain why the problem keeps spiraling and why it remains so hard to stamp out. One big reason is how deep the manufacturing base is. In China and neighboring regions, there are many factories, some legitimate, some not, with capacity and skill to build watch parts. Because of that manufacturing depth, counterfeiters can bounce back fast when one workshop gets shut down. They can spin up another workshop or split tasks among small hidden workshops. That diffusion makes it hard for enforcement to keep track. As long as there is a supply of cheap materials and skilled metal and watchmaking craftsmen, new counterfeit watches can roll off production lines quickly. Also, the global trade infrastructure helps keep the system alive. Counterfeit watches are made in one place, packed, and shipped internationally, often in small parcels or via forwarding services, mail order, or less scrutinized shipping channels. That makes it easy to hide how many go where. According to a 2025 global study, about 62% of seized counterfeit goods worldwide trace back to China or route through Hong Kong, which shows how central China remains in the supply network. Even more, distribution channels have evolved. Rather than relying only on street markets or small in-person shops, many sellers now operate online. They use private chats, e-commerce sites, encrypted messaging apps, and offshore platforms. They reach worldwide customers quickly. This digital layer helps them spread the counterfeit watches far beyond China, to Europe, the Middle East, Africa, the Americas. Once the watches get abroad, tracking them becomes even harder because the supply chain becomes more fragmented and often involves multiple intermediaries. Beyond just manufacturing and trade, the counterfeit problem has deeper structural causes. Many buyers around the world, not only in China, are attracted by lower prices and the prestige associated with luxury watch brands. High demand fuels the trade. As long as people want to appear successful, own symbols of wealth, or get a luxury feel at a discount, counterfeiters will find willing customers. This steady demand gives the entire underground industry a strong financial base. Moreover, economic disparity and consumer behavior shape this demand. In many places, people earn far less than what a real luxury watch costs, yet still want the status symbol. Cheaper counterfeit options make that possible. The contrast between real wealth and average earnings drives a willingness to buy what appears luxury, but costs a fraction of the real price. That dynamic underpins much of the continued demand for replicas globally. On top of that, legal and regulatory challenges make it tough to fight the problem effectively. Some markets, even inside China, continue to tolerate open or semi-open sale of counterfeit goods. For instance, in certain wholesale markets, sellers quietly return counterfeit goods after official inspections or hide them during visits, then bring them back out later. This kind of behavior undermines the effect of raids and inspections. In some cases, local market management companies are state-owned, and enforcement action may be weak or inconsistent, either because shutting down vendors could hurt employment or because of pressure not to disrupt local economy. In such areas, fake goods remain available to trusted customers, even if storefronts appear clean. That kind of local protection helps counterfeiters survive, adapt, and persist. Even when laws exist and raids are made, enforcement often focuses on visible sellers or big factories. What is harder to catch are the small workshops and vendors. Counterfeiters exploit that anonymity. They use shell companies, encrypted platforms, rotating identities, and multiple mailing addresses. This patchwork makes the counterfeit industry resilient to any one crackdown. For every factory closed, another may open. For every arrest, more hands are ready to take over. This means the overall counterfeit trade remains robust. Beyond just market effects, there are deeper social and systemic impacts. According to a recent global analysis, trade in counterfeit goods, including watches, carries heavy social, economic, and environmental costs. The production of these items often bypasses labor and environmental regulations. That creates unsafe working conditions, pollution, and a shadow economy where rules are ignored. Over time, such hidden costs undermine legitimate industry and public welfare. The widespread presence of fakes erodes the value of genuine luxury goods. When so many copies flood global markets, the meaning of authentic luxury becomes diluted. As a result, brands built on heritage, craftsmanship, and exclusivity find it harder to justify their premium prices. Consumers may begin to question whether authenticity matters, especially when superclones look and feel almost identical. With this mindset, luxury may become less about quality or authenticity and more about appearance. And when that happens, the long-term demand for real luxury goods risks shrinking. In the end, the problem keeps spiraling because of an endless cycle. Demand fuels supply, supply adapts and disperses. The counterfeit watch trade becomes a shadow industry, with deep roots in global manufacturing, trade, and consumer culture. The spiral may slow at times, but it rarely stops. In many ways, stopping it fully would require global coordination, systemic reforms, and a shift in how people value authenticity and status. Until then, the network will stay alive, and new superclones will keep emerging, quietly filling markets and challenging what genuine luxury really means. As long as demand exists and profits remain high, the black market trade seems set to keep evolving. If this breakdown changed how you think about luxury, let us know in the comments. How do you think the growing rate of counterfeit can be curbed? Do you think the black market helps the economy thrive? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button. Subscribe so you never miss our next deep dive into the hidden dynamics of wealth, status, and the brands desperately trying to capture both. Because in luxury, nothing is permanent.